and welcome to this 6th episode of my series on my experience competing in fitness for the first time. Now, this is a part of a series, and if you haven't watched the previous episodes yet, all the things that I'm going through here might sound a little weird, might not be easy to follow, and I encourage you to look through the previous part of the series before watching this episode. So I'll link the playlist somewhere up here for you so that you could just click right in. I have honestly not been looking forward to filming this episode. Writing the script for it has been very rough. I have been forced to go through all of the feelings and process it all over again, as was my goal for making this series. So kind of mission accomplished, but still I'm honestly not looking forward to filming this episode. It has been a process, and I know that the whole episode will be very long because of all the information I'm just like cramming in here, but it's very important. The message that I'm trying to communicate here, of both the positive and the negative sides, I think is incredibly important to get across so that people are just informed of all of the sides to this whole process. So I want you to be aware of that. The experiences that I talk about in this episode is my personal experiences, both mental and physically. Somebody else's post-competition process might look entirely different, as would probably my post-competition process look if I were to do it a second time. So this is just like how everything developed for me. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. I will first be talking about what happened to me over the past year physically. I have already covered the aspect of reverse dieting. If you're not familiar with that term, either Google it or look at my last episode, because there I explain how it is and what it is and kind of what it contains. But in fear of giving off too much bad energy from the get-go, I want to look into the positive effects first, because there truly were positive things. Immediately post-show, after getting more food in my system, getting more nutrients in my system, I experienced a boost of energy, and my mood was pretty like steadily increasing, it felt. And it was magnificent. I felt it every day. I felt it at the gym. I was getting stronger. I had, like I said, more energy. My body was feeling really good, and it naturally came from my reverse dieting. An increase in calories and carbohydrates for a body that has been just getting a shortage of these things was a very interesting thing to experience, and I would actually kind of like consider doing this whole process again just to be able to experience this, because it was a really good feeling. I had such an issue just sitting still. I was up and about. I was getting over 30,000 steps a day, and foolishly I thought that it was never going to end. But little did I know that the negative effects was just around the corner. Simultaneously as the physical effects were unfolding, my mental health was on a completely different course, which I will cover after this physical segment, but they kind of go like parallel to each other. Another not so negative effect, just more kind of like a fun observation, was my bowel movement. I was, for the most part, eating more food, and my system was having a party. I had to go so much. It was crazy. And it took a couple of weeks to kind of like stabilize to the point where I didn't need to be in near proximity to the toilet at all times. So yeah. It was an experience. Now, over to the not so fun parts, where the most prominent one was hunger. After that, hormones, body aches, and water retention. And I also struggle with being consistent with eating more. That goes into the mental health, which I will cover a little bit later. But I do think that the lack of staying consistent with my reverse dieting and my diet in general was a huge contributing factor to me not feeling so great for a longer period of time than I actually needed to. Which is a very good lesson to take with me through this process, because I think I myself contributed to my own sort of like downfall with just like giving in to the demons lurking in my mind. So I was constantly hungry, and trying to control your intake while being constantly hungry is an experience, to say it the least. The hunger feeling, I'd say, is semi-physical, semi-mental, but I'll go through it now because it sheds a lot of light on both the physical changes, but also the mental aspect that I will go through later on. Because I wasn't just hungry like you are when you wake up or when you get home from a long day of work. Oh, no. I was voracious. It didn't matter what or how much I ate because I was still hungry. I thought about food all the time and I wanted to eat all the time. It was horrible. I was just like devouring my meals and it was gone in a matter of minutes. I am a pretty fast eater, but this was just excessive, even for me. And this hunger took a long time to settle down. I still experience it every now and then, but now it is more of like a cycle thing and not so much of a the body is just going downhill and everything is shit kind of thing. And this is something that really affects me mentally. I get really cranky when I get these cycles and it really affects my mood and I just truly hate the loss of control. Moving on with the negative physical effects, my hormones all over the place. I was a giant pain in the ass to be around for a long period of time. And the most annoying part is that it felt like it was impossible to control. Albeit I did my best, I just couldn't control it. It felt like this insane just like urge, this like wave flushing over me. I didn't feel like I had control of my own body. I didn't feel like I owned my own body and mind at this point. And like I said, albeit I did my best, I was still acting like a bitch all the time. I was either acting like a bitch or I was pouting or crying. And of those three, I honestly don't know what is the worst. And in the middle of all of this, my poor fiance, he had to just sit through all of this. He definitely deserved a vacation at this, which he got actually. We went to Japan for about a month earlier this year and it was amazing, but I digress. Back to physical things. So the next effect is body aches, and they started occurring when my energy boost started wearing off. I had joint pain. I was struggling to recover from the majority of my workouts and I was sore for a longer period of time than I was used to. I still experience prolonged soreness to some degree, but I think that is more a result of me knowing my limits more at this point and pushing myself more towards those limits. But at that time, it was more But at that time, it was more of my body just not properly working. The other pain element I mentioned was water retention, and I've been mentioning this throughout this series and promising to get back to it and to get back to it. And here we are, getting back to it once and for all. In a matter of weeks after walking off stage, I experienced severe water retention in my legs, primarily in my calves. And it got to a point where it was so painful that I had issues with standing and walking and just performing everyday tasks. I went to my doctor because it was actually that bad, but I didn't really get any help except for being told to look into running. Well, if you know me, you know that I don't run. Even if I'm late for the bus, I don't run. I've always wanted to run, to like it, but it has never really happened. Mostly because my legs get really painful, and as a result of that, I have the cardio of a 90-year-old man. Actually, I think a 90-year-old man actually would have better cardio than me. Yeah, it's bad. After visiting my doctor, I tried running a couple of times, but I quickly fell off because it was just too painful. And I was left with months of increasingly throbbing pain in my legs. Now I'm jumping a little bit back and forward here to give a little bit more of a complete story. So I am very sorry if this is causing any sort of confusion, but we are now in December. Remember, I walked off stage in April. We are now in December, and I finally got a referral from my doctor to a specialist at the hospital, which I was going to go to get examined by. So the appointment I got at the hospital was in mid-February, and weirdly enough, my pain and water retention and all of the stuff started to ease out, started to get a little bit more bearable throughout January. Although it still was noticeable. So fast forward to mid-February, I got to the hospital, got examined by the doctor, and I got diagnosed with lipedema, which really didn't make any sort of difference because I didn't really get any help. You see, with having a above normal healthy lifestyle, I'm already doing all of the things that they take in as precautionary measurements. I'm already lifting weights, I'm getting my daily activity through walking, I have a conscious relationship with what I put in my body. A little too conscious, some might say, but it is conscious. So when it comes to my diagnosis, I'm already doing all the things that are in my means to do. So in the words of the doctor that examined me, there is nothing else that they can do. I just have to accept that it is what it is. And this gave me quite of a mental dip, as you can imagine. There's nobody who enjoys hearing that you just have to accept being in pain. And albeit you're doing all of the things that a lot of the other people struggling with this actually aren't doing, you're not getting rewarded. You're kind of getting punished, it feels. I know it sounds bitter. I am a little bitter. I will admit to it. But yeah, that's where we're at. However, I do want to make one thing clear, and that is that competing did not cause my diagnosis. The only thing it did was amplifying my symptoms. Now, this is a great segue into my mental health development throughout the same period. So I barely remember what happened in the months following the competition. I can talk about traveling, diet, and all that stuff because I have seen pictures on my camera roll. But apart from that, I do not remember much. However, I remember how I felt, and that was a constant surge of negative and self-deprecating emotions. Now, I've had troubles with my relationship with food in the past, but this was now on full relapse, hitting me harder than it has ever been before. See, whenever I feel like I'm losing control of aspects in my life, I turn to the things that I can control. Typically my diet and exercise. Now I needed to understand the psychology behind this, because if you've never had issues with your relationship with food, it can be very difficult to put yourself in the shoes of someone who actually has. So I ask you very kindly to put your non-judgmental hat on for the next part. Losing control is something that I think a lot of us struggle with, but I think it manifests differently in all of us. Some might not handle people touching their stuff, being the passenger of a car, being interrupted, or other tangible or intangible examples. And for some people, focusing on the things you can control has become a tried and true coping mechanism, albeit it might not be the most healthy one. And sometimes it can lead to self-destructive and dangerous habits when rooted in low self-esteem and the feeling of just not being good enough. We live in a society where looks matter. How you represent yourself to the society matters, and in some cases it can actually determine your value as a human being to the ones around you. And I'm not saying that this is morally correct, nor am I saying that it's the same for everybody, but I feel like it is a very high pressure on representing yourself in the best way possible today. Now, I could go on and on about this, but I think you get the essence of where I'm coming from. And in the months following my competition, I struggled with seeing my body return to a new normal, albeit better normal than before I started my prep. It was still far away from the goal that I had been spending so much time and energy working towards over the past months. And I felt like I was losing control. Now, I know logically that stage form is an unsustainable form, but it's still hard and challenging to look in the mirror every day and seeing that everything that you've worked so hard towards is just disappearing little by little until it is almost like it never existed to begin with. So I returned to old habits to control my emotions, only this time I was equipped with something far more dangerous. Because I knew how to lose weight. I knew all the tips and the tricks to keep the hunger away. I knew that if I exercised just a little bit more, ate just a little bit less calories, that I would hopefully be able to control what I felt was happening to my body and what I ultimately felt was happening to my worth as a person. Still, I felt like a failure. So I pushed myself further and further, even though my body was crying for release. I still hadn't got my period back. My libido was like non-existent at this point, and I was just so mentally and physically exhausted and moody that I just started to feel like things wasn't worth it anymore. I think you can kind of understand where I'm going with this, because things started to get really, really dark. I don't know exactly what changed, or I might not remember. There are large chunks of time. There are a lot of things that are just gone from my mind from the time after the competition, and maybe it is for the best. But something changed around the time that we went on vacation in August, because this was after the Italy trip. Because we went to Italy in May and then we went to Spain in August. Anyways, then I realized that I couldn't keep doing this to myself anymore. So I tried to be a little bit more cautious of what I put in my body, and I tried to exercise a little bit less. And of course I started to see changes, but I blame this on being on vacation, and I decided to worry about it whenever I got home. So this turned into a very good transition into improving a bit more throughout the fall. And in October, November, I finally started to feel a little bit more like myself. After over half a year, I felt like I started slowly but surely to get both my mind and my body back in my own possession. I remember noticing my mood being a little bit more stable, my stress levels lowered, and I felt generally calmer than I had been in a while, and it was really nice. To sum up the mental effects for me, it ruined my relationship with food and exercise. Food became associated with calories and a number that I had to hit or be lower than every day to feel like I had any sort of success. And whatever I was doing in the gym didn't yield results fast enough compared to how fast I saw the healthy amount of fat appear on my body. And I say healthy because it is not healthy having a super low fat percentage, like it isn't healthy to have a super high fat percentage, even though that is a wasp's nest that I am not poking my head into. No, thank you. And maybe you're wondering, did it ever get better? And the answer is yes, it did. These days I am feeling lighter, I'm feeling stronger, both mentally and physically. The struggles are there and they will never truly vanish, because as soon as you have had issues with food and body image occur in your life, they truly never disappear. They may fade, lie dormant, or become easier to carry, but disappear, never. What I can do is choose. I can set my mind to let reason speak louder than the destructive whisper. And sometimes, some days, it is effortless. It's like breathing. Other days, I lose the fight before it even begins. And that's okay, because even in those moments, I am doing better than I did a year ago. And in that truth lies something endlessly powerful. It's growth, it's resilience, and it is the realization that healing isn't perfection, it's progress. I started making this series in hopes of being able to change the way I viewed this experience, and I have accomplished exactly that. And that makes me so proud. Now, after this project, I look back at the competition process and I think, I cannot believe that I did that. And that is such an amazing thing to realize. Thank you for watching this episode. We are almost at the finish line. So I hope that you wanna see this project all the way through. In the next episode, I will share the lessons that this journey has etched into me. And I will answer the question that I have been asked time and time again that I can kind of no longer avoid. And that is, will I do it again? So leave comments if you are new or returning about what you have enjoyed the most so far or what you're looking forward to the most. Subscribe so you don't miss out on the next and last episode that I will be posting very, very soon.